Do you remember the first time you saw a dinosaur? First time you see them, it's like a miracle. You read about them in books, you see the bones in museums, but you don't really believe it. They're like myths. And then you see...
Okay, look at all this bullshit.
We're gonna have fun with this thing.
Jurassic World is a bit of a mess, but you can't deny the fact that it was a huge success at the box office. It surpassed the first two Avengers movies, and even Age of Ultron was in theaters at the same time. Really shows how passionate the Jurassic community is, and I'm happy to have been a part of that. But as stated previously, there became a point where it just wasn't that 9 out of 10 film I remember it being. So even with knowing a sequel was on the way and I was definitely going to see it, I didn't have that hyper feeling that the Jurassic World trailer gave me. Even when they were trying to give news and updates on this new film, I did not know what to expect. At the top of my head, as I typed the script, all I remember them saying was they would use more animatronics and less CG. It was going to be filming primarily in London, and that it was going to have a darker tone than the last one. And then there was this. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this picture, to my knowledge, was the very first image of this new film. Almost a still image teaser to leave us guessing what would be involved. All I was thinking was, they aren't gonna have, like, straight-up dino fossils coming to life and running around, right? Because this was looking like a straight-up Night at the Museum reboot or something. But of course not. It's not that. It's a Lost World remake. I mean, let's really think about this for a sec. A beloved Jurassic Park character gets 2 scenes. We have dinosaurs being taken off an island and brought to mainland. An animal rights message. And I'm not even gonna show this yet, but a single character gets ripped apart by 2 large carnivores at the same time. Something that's only ever been done one other time in the series. Include the fact that all of these, including the darker tone, are wrapped together in the second movie of a Jurassic trilogy. That is a lot of similarities for me to not think Lost World had some form of inspiration for this film. But you know what? Chamber of Secrets did some of the same things from Sorcerer's Stone, and I liked it more, so we shouldn't judge this film so negatively from the start. Maybe after seeing the reviews of both Jurassic and maybe even Lost World, Trevorrow took some notes, adapted to the feedback, and had a fresh state of mind when returning to direct something special. Wow, Jesusaurus! What the hell? Yep, we have a new director in the form of J.A. Bayona. A guy that I've never heard of, has 3 other movies prior that I've never seen, and seems to have done a lot of small directing work making short films that I can't for the love of God even pronounce. So I can really only critique him based on this film. But just because it's his 4th doesn't mean bad news. Know what James Cameron's 4th film was? Aliens. So really, why not try to tackle a Jurassic movie to get some street cred? Well, that comes with the risk of leaving a story open from the previous film. He has extra pressure in needing to continue the stories of a movie he wasn't even a part of previously. Trevorrow will be tackling story this time instead of screenplay. But even that gets kinda iffy. It's one thing to write out scenes and dialogue for characters, but now he's gonna be continuing the stories of a movie he didn't even write originally. Doesn't sound super promising, but I do try to stay optimistic enough to think that something great can come from it. So if you're still watching at this point, then that means this video's length didn't intimidate you. In that case, get comfy and grab some gamer snacks, cause while this movie may not have had that impact I discussed last time, there is still so much I want to talk about that I think it would be a disservice to split this review up. Or, you know, worst case scenario, you got something to do, YouTube got that feature that continues where you left off at. As far as theater experience goes, wasn't super exciting. It wasn't opening night as much as it was pre-screening night, and I didn't know there was only going to be like 5 other people there. And I have not really seen many reviews of this film. I only ever saw YMS's either the same night or the day after seeing it in theaters, and after that, I wanted to put other reviews on hold until I would eventually talk about it myself. Only because I wanted to give you all my initial thoughts on the film and not risk being swayed by other people's reviews. So yeah, I'm gonna make educated guesses on what I think people did not enjoy about the movie and still discuss these certain topics. If I'm wrong, but hey, I'm trying to make a fun gimmick here. So, released in 2018, did this film explode with excitement, or is it just terrible?
I want to die.
Then righty! We start off Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom not showing the title right away. Yeah, not a super important thing to point out, but notice how every other movie just kind of gets the title out of the way before our first character's even shown? Now, we're building up to the title in this one. A submarine gets piloted in the now mostly destroyed Jurassic World looking for a big old plot device. Above ground, we got a guy using an unreleased Nintendo Switch model that controls the gate in the ocean, and a couple of other dudes in a helicopter who are pretty good running distance away from the other guy.
Relax. Anything in here'd be dead by now.
Are you sure about that?
What the bros down in the sub are looking for is the skeletal remains of Indy. They cut off one of her bones and send it up to the chopper. Oh, and it turns out that one of these guys is Kevin Lane, who starred in The Last Jedi as a bomber pilot. Unfortunately, he goes from bomber pilot to bummer pilot because... Looks like anything in here was not dead by now. Things don't get much better upstairs.
Guys,
What is that?
I can't reach them! What?
Rexy shows up the earliest in the whole series in a pretty awesome way, but not as awesome as the previous film. She chases the nameless tech man and steps on a switch, which causes the gate he was attempting to close to just stop and stay open. And surprisingly, he manages to get a... oh shit.
That's hot. That's hot.
Okay, let me just say, this opening scene is awesome. 3 deaths from the start, 2 awesome dinos right from the get-go, and I really had that adrenaline rush again. Really gives you a good idea of what's to come. Unfortunately, it doesn't come without criticism. See, for how many Jurassic cliches the previous film did away with, Fallen Kingdom immediately brings 3 of them back. I guess a black guy had to die this time. We started off with a dino attack on the Island of Importance, though with the events that will happen in this one, it'd be pretty difficult to do it again in the next one.
actually, it's gonna be super easy. Barely an inconvenience.
Yeah, probably, but I don't know, it's not out yet. And a third one that I actually did not cover last time is there was no dark and stormy night like the 3 films prior had. What did this one start off with? The submarine attack was way too predictable. Like, come on, you weren't tricking anyone with that anything in here would be dead by now line. And yes, I know John Cena memes are old, but that is immediately what I thought of when I heard that line in the theater. On top of that, I thought every dinosaur in the park had a tracking device on them. Did whoever sent them not inform them about that? Did they not think to lend them a device that could track them so there are no surprise or assumptions made? Now about the copter attack, keeping in mind I'm no expert on them or anything, but I thought if its momentum immediately changes, it's plummeting. Rexy yanks and pulls on it for quite a bit, and Mosey kinda got some pounds on her, so you'd think she'd pull the whole thing down under. But I guess it's a good thing they had the plot device for the movie, otherwise they would be joining Indy. But alas, they got what they came here for, and this scene was also partially set up so the Mosasaurus can be the first dinosaur to evacuate Isla Nublar. And the timing couldn't have been better. After a very fancy title sequence...
Giacchino's back, and once again, great original scores!
It's real life chronologically 3 years since the destruction of the park, but now even more is about to occur in the very near future, But this time, it's the whole frickin' island. Technically, 5 movies into the Jurassic series, we now have a volcano involved and is currently active. Dinos are still roaming Nublar, animal rights activists have hit the streets, and now the decision needs to be made on whether to rescue the remaining ones or let extinction take its course one more time. Cutting to a courtroom where everyone's favorite chaotician's at, he gives the answer that I feel we all kind of expected him to give.
I think that we should allow our magnificent, glorious dinosaurs to be taken out by the volcano. As deeply sad as that would be, we altered the course of natural history. This is a correction.
Are you suggesting the Almighty is taking matters in his own hands?
Senator, with all due respect, God's not part of the equation.
Given that he's had the in-person experience twice, yes, I am saying twice, and you'll see why, he, as well as another certain character, would be the most logical people to give the answer on what happens. And despite the fact that Malcolm is only here to cameo, his decision is going to be the driving force of the film. Cutting to Claire, who, for some reason, so far, can't not be introduced without being on an elevator with a shot of her feet panning up to her head. She's no longer rocking the Johnny Depp Willy Wonka haircut and keeps her continuity from the last film by having her own business that's all about preserving dino lives, which probably makes things a little bit complicated when it's decided to let Isla Nublar turn into a Jurassic steakhouse. Look, at least rescue the herbivores. I don't want to be at Walgreens while a Pachycephalosaurus headbutts its way through the shelf when I'm just trying to look for some toothpaste. Gray and Zach are no longer involved, but we are still gonna have our youngish duo characters, one being Zia, played by Daniela Pineda. She's got a sarcastic / snarky attitude and is a dino veterinarian.
As a matter of fact, I do have the dinosaur's best interests in mind. I'm a paleo-veterinarian. That's a real thing.
And Franklin, played by Justice Smith, who will go on to play the main character in Detective Pikachu the following year. He's kind of cowardly and will be the techie brains of the movie.
More likely to die riding on a horse than in a plane.
No, I'm not, because I won't get on a horse. My chances are 0.
So, as is tradition with these films, they are probably not liked by the majority. And if that's the case, I can see why. Zia's vet trait only comes in handy once. She doesn't have a character arc and isn't really involved with any action scenes in the sense that she isn't chased down by anything. Also, her personality may turn viewers away from liking her. Now, Franklin, on the other hand, may be the least liked of the two because of one thing. Just about every single time he's on screen, there has to be a comedy bit involved.
Nervous flyer?
Would you ride a 1,000-pound horse that's been abused all its life?
I rode my motorcycle through the jungle with a pack of raptors.
We're not compatible.
God! It's hot!
Oh my god. Oh my god. Is it in my mouth? Did it get in my mouth? You sure?
You're good.
Here's some bug spray. Bug spray.
It's certainly not a bad thing to have comic relief, but if it's going to be used in a movie that is not labeled as a comedy, it needs to be used sparingly. Movies like Ace Ventura and Billy Madison can get away with 95% jokes because that is what they are completely aimed towards. When you do that in a movie like this, it throws the tone off from what you originally wanted it to be. Comic relief was something I wanted to bring up in more depth in the previous review, but I thought it would have been better to talk about it in this one. Laurie was the main comic relief in the last film, and while there were a few times where I laughed,
the very existence of this park is predicated on our ability to handle incidents like this. It was an eventuality, okay?
You should put that in the brochure. Eventually, one of these things will eat somebody.
Sometimes it felt mistimed. When introduced to him, he has dino figures on his desk, and there's a moment where he's about to knock over a drink, but Claire uses her foot to move a trash can below it. After Indy's attack on the ACU, Owen gets frustrated and swipes Laurie's figures into the trash can. So it's like the first time it happened was just a warm-up, but this was the punchline now. And I just don't think it was a proper spot for it. May have been better to have this moment before Indy appears and attacks. There's also right before he's about to open the T-Rex's paddock. We have something epic and suspenseful building up. And then...
do something for once in your life.
Why do you have to make it personal?
The reason why I didn't talk about it much last time is because he's not around that much. However, Franklin here is going to be with us for like half the adventure. Now, are there lines and moments that did make me laugh? Yes. Is every single one of his lines made for comic relief? No. But in general, he just feels like a walking punchline that's trying to find cheap ways to make the audience laugh. It's like they had a whole list of jokes and humorous moments but didn't know which ones would work or not, so they threw all of them in hoping something lands. Going to Malcolm in the first film, Yes, he was the comic relief, but he knew when to have a real conversation and take things seriously. Made him feel more like a regular human being rather than a gimmick. In fact, one of my favorite lines from that movie is this.
When they opened Disneyland in 1956, nothing worked.
Yeah, but John, if the Pirates of the Caribbean breaks down, the pirates don't eat the tourists.
It's hilarious because it's spaced well and it didn't happen right after a character got eaten. Also, he didn't just joke throughout the movie, so that joke stood out more. Now, despite all of that, you'll probably think I'm crazy for saying this, but I actually like these two.
This is gonna suck!
Mainly because I do think they have personalities, acting range, and good chemistry.
That was like 40 seconds, you're getting better.
You gotta stop letting your mom shop for you.
You don't need to insult me every time someone pisses you off.
Dude, I'm a doctor, not a telemarketer. What is your job again? You plug in cords, right?
It's actually more important than it sounds.
How they interact is not far from how me and my friends interact, so they don't really bother me much. In fact, if I were to rank the young characters in the series after Tim and Lex, it would be Zia for being smart, with the exception of the time where she rubbed dried dino blood across her mouth. But other than that, she's also resourceful. Eric, because he had survival skills up until the Pterodon Nation attacked. Franklin, because his tech smarts helps out in critical situations, but jokes may be a little too much. I don't think Gray is technically a bad character, but it does seem like he was really only there to be the personification of the audience, especially in the beginning, mainly based on his expressions. But other than that, nothing really stands out. Other than, we need more teeth. I can't really remember any lines from him. You may be surprised that Kelly isn't at the bottom of the barrel for how little personality she had in her gymnastics raptor kill, not being much of a hell yeah, more of a what the hell. But Zach had the blandest of personalities, creeps on girls while having a girlfriend of his own, and fixes up a Jeep that logically shouldn't have worked. There is technically one more character, but we'll get there soon enough. Just when Claire's about to give up hope on the dino's survival, she gets a positivity phone call to head on over to Retcon Manor where action can take place, is greeted by a woman named Iris, and waits in the lobby for someone else to show up.
Hello, Claire. I'm Eli Mills.
Yeah, that's all you really need to know about him. Yeah, he says more words and stuff, but like you're gonna remember them by the end of the movie.
Let me give you a bit of history. This is where it all began. Before the island, Sorna, Jurassic Park.
Whoa, 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 you ain't slipping that past me so easily. What did you just say?
For the island, Sorna.
So, Isla Sorna is canon to this trilogy. I don't know, maybe I'm overthinking it. I tend to do that sometimes. So as we take a stroll through the Museum of Natural History, we see the head of the house, the giant skull of a Negujaceratops, originally known as Chasmosaurus marisalensis. Nailed it! Regardless of the name, look at the size of that thing. Could you just imagine walking in the woods and something with that big of a head comes walking towards you? And them horns looking super sharp. Wouldn't want to get rammed with or fall onto one of those, am I right? Alright, so the actual head of the house is Benjamin Lockwood, played by James Cromwell, to, I guess, do a bit of a Spider-Man 3 reunion with Claire. We also see a little girl at the top of a flight of stairs who runs away. We'll talk about her in a bit. So Lockwood is a character just kind of tossed in to, I guess, either expand the JCU, Jurassic Cinematic Universe, or retcon Hammond being the only one with the dino dream.
We both shared this passion, John and I.
He says they both had this dream when they were young, but I literally have no idea what relation he has with Hammond. Their last names ain't the same, so they aren't siblings of the same parents. I don't know if they are cousins or best friends, colleagues. They don't elaborate on that. And really, in multiple ways, it doesn't even matter in the grand scheme. It just kinda annoys me because if this trilogy is the end of the Jurassic franchise, then that means in the 5th movie out of 6, we are now finding out Hammond had a partner in crime that also happened to have the exact same dream. But I guess Lockwood just wasn't passionate enough to be at Jurassic Park with Hammond. Oh no, there's a simple explanation for that and we'll get there.
Hammond and Lockwood built a custom lab in the sub-basement, extracted the first DNA from amber right beneath our feet.
I thought Wu created every dinosaur you see.
This was all John Hammond's dream. To Let these creatures live in peace?
I thought it was both of your dreams, and no, Hammond wanted to make a theme park featuring these amazing creatures and show them off to the public.
John said it best. These creatures don't need our protection. They need our absence.
Ah yes, my favorite Hammond line from the first movie.
These creatures require our absence to survive, not our help.
This rant won't be as long as the last one, but I do want to speak seriously for a bit. I gotta tell you, while it is sweet of them to try and include Richard Attenborough in these films even though he passed away, I really don't think they should have. Acknowledging Hammond as the founding father of Jurassic Park is one thing, but it feels like they are completely rewriting the character as if he is just a blank canvas. They did the same thing with Masrani in the previous film. Said Hammond entrusted him to essentially reopen the park. But we don't know the chemistry between those two either. This completely goes against Hammond's arc where he realized this dream was going too far and had to leave it behind. And I just felt like it was in poor taste to kill off a character that was associated with him in some way when both the actor and character are dead. Listen, Attenborough was very important to make the first film work. I couldn't for the life of me see anyone else as that character. Not even Sean Connery, who was originally asked to play him. May he rest in peace too. Attenborough will be and is missed. But these films gotta try being their own thing without bringing him back in. Leave this character with a powerful arc that can also be seen as a life lesson and stop creating extra lore that goes against what he ended with. Okay, so what is the real purpose of this scene? The Great Valley was created, also dubbed Sanctuary, that would be used as a safe island to transport the dinosaurs where they can roam free. And being that Eli literally just dropped the name Sorna, another island with free roaming dinosaurs with no tourists or fences, we can tell right off the bat he's a villain and is planning something else entirely. The plan for now is to rescue as many species they can, but he has a special request to save Blue as she is the last special raptor of her kind. They'll need Owen's help to find her, but you may have noticed that he was not at the Dino Rescue Club earlier. Oh, okay. He's building a house or cabin or something for themselves.
Owen!
Oh boy.
Oh, that wasn't a very positive reaction. They broke up between movies and now have to spend almost the entirety of the second one getting back together. Again. Ugh, they National Treasure 2'd us. We ran out of fun and interesting side stories, so let's bring an old one back. We need romance for some reason. And speaking of for some reason, they make it seem like Owen doesn't care what's going to happen and that he's not gonna help find Blue and or try to rescue whatever dinos they can. But if you're someone who saw the trailer or even the dang poster, you should know that he's gonna go. But no, he needs the inspiration to, so he watches a video of him playing with the baby raptors and then appears on the plane that our heroes will be riding before the others show up. That was probably poorly worded, but you get the gist. On their way, we cut back to the discontinuity mansion where Iris is looking for that mystery girl.
Come out!
Oh no. Don't tell me this is gonna be a jump scare horror flick. This is Maisie, played by first-time actress Isabella Sermon. Ignoring the fact that A, her second appearance is a jump scare, and B, she becomes part of a very odd subplot that may have also kicked this movie in the dino nuts. I actually don't think she does that bad of an acting job. She has energy, personality, and never comes off as monotone or stale. And I think she has the potential to continue acting as a career if she decides to go that path. I would say she's better than Gray because she's more involved with the story and therefore becomes more memorable, but not quite passing Franklin because while she certainly is more brave than him in specific situations, she can really only help by delivering information. Franklin's nerdiness comes in handy more often. Anyway, Maisie is going to have a mystery about her to keep things interesting for the plot, and I think just about every time she's on screen, a little bit more gets unraveled. The start of it happens when Claire asks Eli about her.
He has a grandchild. His daughter died in a car accident.
That's awful.
Yeah, I know. But they're very close. Really close.
Do I look like her?
Oh, yes. You could be her mirror image.
Did my mother ever visit the park?
Once. A long time ago. She would have saved them too, you know.
I have no idea what they're talking about. It almost feels like misguidance in a way, just in case someone predicts the twist this early and therefore make them rethink it. I don't think that works if you've seen the whole series. Because unless there was a background female scientist at Jurassic Park, the only woman there was Ellie, who did not have any kids until JP3, and even in that, Charlie is a boy, and if we are to assume the youngest is a girl and ballparking the age at a year old, then she would be about 17 years old now, which Maisie looks nowhere near. I could be completely off, but it almost made it seem like they were saying Sattler is Maisie's mother. But I'm ready to consume the Persenberry, take a break from the confusion, tune the brain knob, and just enjoy some dino action. The Dino 4 make it to Nublar, meeting with Kent Wheatley. He's the leader of this expedition. They head on over to a shed so Franklin can use his computer skills to try and get some blue clues on where she's at. Keep in mind, as all this plays out, lava's getting juicy and the volcano's just itching to erupt, so they on a decently short time limit to find her and get out! Owen arrives where the tracker leads to, and it is one of the most randomest spots you never cared about. I know I said I'm a sucker for nostalgia and throwbacks, but this seems really stretching it, doesn't it? The visiting center in the last film was like, oh my god, is that a tear I feel? Bringing back the flair with Rexy's return was phenomenal. But I do not have either feeling with seeing the spot where Tim got rescued out of that tree. The references in the last film were understandable. It had been 14 years since the Jurassic movie had hit the big screen, 22 if we're counting only movie 1, but now we're at 3 years since the previous one. So how about we don't have any more locations from or references to the first film and create original, memorable Alright, Blue is here, but due to the fact that she's technically been alone for this long, she's a little delusional and snappy towards Owen. But he tries to calm her down until an off-screen trank dart gets her in the neck. Turns out Wheatley isn't a super nice guy. Blue goes and attacks one of them, and a Jurassic series first happens where a victim of a raptor attack is able to fight back and it works. Wheatley would have been perfectly fine with one of his men getting killed because they need Blue to be alive. Owen tries fighting back, but gets tranked himself. So with Blue having a bullet inside her and the possibility of dying from bleeding out is on the table, this is where Zia's role will be coming in handy. Boy, it's a good thing they let her tag along just in case something like this would happen.
You shoot me, and that animal dies.
I think we have the drop on you, sweetheart.
Keep in mind here that Wheatley only knows he's supposed to get Blue, but he does not know why Eli needs her.
That's what I got given at the fucking
Oh, that's hot. That's hot.
Owen narrowly escapes the lava, though I would like to ask if it's possible to actually survive if lava is that close to you but not quite touching you. But Claire and Frank are about to have problems of their own.
That's it.
Proximity alert. Something's coming.
Where does that tunnel lead?
Well, it connects to the rest of the park.
And let me tell you, in the theater, I was close to having a dino-sized happy freakout upon seeing the silhouette of what's coming down that hall. Meet the cousin of Spinosaurus, Baryonyx. Same family, but slightly different appearance, with Barry not having the fin or sail and probably being a tad smaller. It was also referenced in JP3 when Grant quizzes Billy on what attacked them.
How would you classify it, Billy?
Baryonyx.
Not with that sail.
I think it's cool to have some form of representation of Spiny in this new trilogy that is not just, well, an inanimate fossil display, but I can't help but find it funny that this also kind of feels passive-aggressive. Oh, you Spinosaurus fans didn't like when the previous film did this? Okay, fine. Here's a dinosaur that kinda looks like it, but missing its most defining feature. Admittedly though, it is pretty cool having a Spiny rep in the room with lava leaking in. Again, I felt tense when watching this, even though predictable things happen.
Where'd it go?
It's stuck!
Gee, I wonder if the ladder will fall at an inconvenient time after it struggled to initially. Is it also any coincidence that a dinosaur with a very long snout is forcing its way through a cylindrical space? Well, guess that's all we Spiny fans get. A member of the family that just gets trapped in a room filling with lava. At least it was enjoyable while it lasted. They escape it, but much like the Trix rabbit, the chase never stops. Wait a minute, is that Lucky Charms? Shut the fuck! So partaking in what is essentially a 2 to 3 minute chase scene, we are greeted to a wide array of dinos we have never seen before, which is pretty cool. They do get a chance to take a couple seconds break though. Where at? Line up the spot where that Gallimimus scene in the first movie took place. Just another landmark that brings tears to my eyes when the stampede destroys very specific sections of it at a time. Oh, and there's just a random gyrosphere lying around, even though it's pretty far away from the park and probably wouldn't be functional right now, but that won't stop them from using it anyway.
Get in!
Folks, meet the Carnotaurus, one of many carnivores that was involved with the Indominus' gene pool. They make you think it's ongoing, but nah, it decides to pick a fight with a Sinoceratops. Wait, Sinoceratops? Sino? The Sino region? Bastiodon! Wow, Rexy, we got a volcano erupting and some lava flowing. No need to be a show-off like that. Oh my god, an Allosaurus!
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine.
And I think it's dead. Eventually making it to a more beachy spot, they notice Wheatley and his crew packing up some dinos for a road trip. He's got to pull a dino tooth for foreshadowing reasons. Huh, so Barry did survive. Or maybe there was a second one. I don't know. Either way, it's cool they kept it around. And our heroes get on board in the most noisily stealthy way possible. Oh, and as she speeds to the boat, let me say this is why the opening scene was partially set up so Mosey can leave. Because, like, how would they have managed to get her aboard? And now we get to, with no sarcasm whatsoever, the saddest moment in the whole series thus far. And they fucking ruined it with the John Deere hat right there in your face. But when not thinking about that, I'm serious, dude. In the theater, I was shedding tears at this moment. Even when rewatching this movie multiple times on DVD, they hold on the shot just long enough to where it's difficult to not feel a tear forming. In fact, other than during editing, I'm probably not even looking at the screen right now. Hey, listen. If anyone's watching this with Future Wolf, you wanna check up on him, make sure he's doing okay, just be like, hey, you doing okay over there? But actually, if you really think about it, there's some symbolism to be had here. I mean, think about it. What is the first dinosaur we see in the first movie? A velociraptor? You motherfucker! The way I see it, this whole Isla Nublar adventure began with a Brachiosaurus, And now it ended with a Brachiosaurus. There was also something going through my mind watching this the first time as the eruption run was happening. Isla Nublar burning to the ground was like the selling point of the movie. Took up a good chunk of the trailer, it's what's represented on the movie poster, and even the subtitle, Fallen Kingdom. You could say this was a dinosaur kingdom and it's falling. It's almost worthy of being the final act of the film, but when this happens, if this moment here is where the lava flow truly begins, this is at the 35-minute mark, so I was actually getting a little interested in what else they were gonna do, as this happened a lot earlier than I expected it to. So, product placement. This is something I typically don't comment on because I really don't care. A character uses an iPhone for something, it doesn't bug me. Live action Transformers uses branded vehicles, I think it's to be expected. Heck, the LEGO movies are basically almost 2-hour-long commercials to sell Legos. But there is this matter of how distracting they can be and whether or not they take you out of the immersion. This John Deere product placement does exactly that for me. Why was it necessary to have it when we have IMO, the most emotional moment of the series, taking place? Why couldn't it be used elsewhere? You can make the argument that it's because Claire had to disguise herself from Wheatley and his crew a bit, but guess what? It could have just been a hat with a solid color or a camouflage one with no logo, and Owen and Frank don't even get one or any way to disguise themselves. Oh, and Claire immediately discards it once they reunite with Zia, and they're gonna be on this boat a while. It may have been a couple seconds, but it was a struggle to ignore it. Speaking of struggling, that's what Zia's going through when trying to fix up Blue.
I can't take the bullet out without a transfusion from another animal. Which one of you knows how to find a vein? Oh, I did a blood drive for the Red Cross. Great. For any kind of tetanurian, their blood type should be close enough. But for carnivores with 2 or 3 fingers, no more than 3.
Yeah, we need to hang out with Rexy. As you may have found out, there really isn't a big focus on her this time around. She's kinda in the background, but shows up on the occasion just to be like, hey y'all, I'm still here.
Okay, I got it. Come on.
You know what? I actually find this moment kind of humorous. I get that they are doing a weird combination of comedy and suspense here, even though we all should know that she's gonna wake up, but it's ironically harmless enough to where I get a chuckle out of it. But let's finally get to the story proper. So, keep in mind, I might overlook something or get a detail incorrect, or have a misunderstanding about stuff. If that's the case, feel free to correct and or enlighten me. With that said, why are dinos being taken off an island this time? An auction. An auction to raise money that'll further the weaponizing dino story. This guy, Mr. Eversol, which kinda sounds like the name of a new cleaning product, will be involved in this plot to make most terrible things happen. They thought since the Indominus plan went so well the first time, they said, let's do it again. So they made a new dinosaur. Sort of.
Every bone and muscle designed for hunting and killing, and thanks to Owen Grady's research, it follows human command. We call it the Indoraptor.
Which, come on, that's an unimaginative name. Let's just take the first part of Indominus and the last part of Velociraptor and cram them together. At least with a name like Indominus Rex, we really didn't know what it was made of. Yeah, the Rex part gave us an obvious hint at one of the genomes, but it's not like they called it the Velocirex. But even though they don't have Blue yet, they already made one. A prototype dinosaur. Because the thing would be overpowered as hell and we need it to be a manageable threat for our heroes later, it's basically got all the ingredients except for Blue. So in a way, if you would consider the Indominus as a supervillain in the last film, this is like the villain trope of being resurrected with a different look and much harder to deal with. Maisie's being a spy kid and snooping in on Eli's plans. She ends up in the lab Eli was talking about earlier, where she finds, I think, the same video of Owen playing with the baby raptors. Here's an example of where product placement does not bug me. Yes, she's watching it on a Mac and the camera even scoots past the Apple logo, but there also isn't something literally dying at the same time. It's a quiet moment and her watching this video is important for later events. But she doesn't have time to watch the cuteness for too long because Eli walks in with another guest.
The raptor is a behavioral specimen. We need her in good health.
I didn't shoot the damn thing. What do you want me to do, huh?
You don't have to faintest comprehension of what I'm doing here. To get the next iteration under control, it needs to form a familial bond with a closely related genetic link.
English, Henry.
It needs a mother!
Maisie tries to stay hidden, but she unfortunately goes down an Arkham Asylum hallway.
Distinguishable from a bulldog, but within that gray area is art.
Spare me the poetry, Henry. Can you do it? Can you do it?
Yes, I can do it.
Well, then do it.
Thank you.
God, you're a pain in the ass.
Yep, this is... I'm not gonna call it a reveal because it still remained mostly hidden in shadows, but I will call it the tease of the Indoraptor. And as you can see, he likes to be a little schemer. The kind of dinosaur that'll tap you on one shoulder but then be on the opposite side of you. And you know what? That was said as a joke, but it's actually not far from being factual. Maisie is caught and locked in her room. Franklin at some point gets mistaken for one of the crew, so both him and Zia will be taking a time out for a bit. The boat makes it to mainland. Upon hopping in one of the vehicles, Claire decides now to not wear the hat to Clark Kent herself, so the gate guard has perfect natural night vision and is able to see Owen and Claire, getting them caught and tossed into dino jail. And now we back up a bit because this movie jumps too much. After Eli locked Maisie in her room, Lockwood requested to speak to him because she told Lockwood about Eli's plan. He kinda did that "I'm not gonna believe you" cliche, but shortly after he got suspicious. And speaking of suspicious, she tried pulling a particular photo from the album, but he had woken up before a good look could be had, so they added to the Maisie mystery. The Maze-tery, if you will. Sorry. Lockwood ain't exactly happy that Eli is using the place as a prehistoric auction house to create what might as well be an Armageddon-saur.
I want you to call the police. It'll be easier if the story comes from you.
You know, I've been thinking. John Hammond was right. It was an unholy thing that you did. I'm not the only guilty one here, am I, sir?
Lo and behold, guys, we have our very first death in the series where one human directly kills another. And I guess extra symbolism for having the amber cane break. Just another character you briefly introduce and give some character development for, and then you kill him off. Like, what's the point? Maisie escapes her room via balcony and shimmying around the building while at the same time, auctionees start arriving and Mr. Eversole being like, "Mr. Moneyman, such an honor it is." By the way, if you think this whole shimmying thing is a little ridiculous,
it's foreshadowing.
Maisie gets to Lockwood's room to discover the sad news in the worst way possible. Eli is heard approaching the room and she grabs that photo book and hides in a small elevator shaft of some kind. A perfect place to try and hide if anything were to, like, chase you or something. Know what I mean?
I suppose now he's gone, you'll be looking for another situation.
No. Maisie needs me. I raised her. I raised both of them.
Well, the movie's gotta continue on, right? And you can't do that if our heroes are locked up. But not all hope is lost, because by some miracle, they were put right next to the cell of, oh, you jerks! Stigomolach. Freaking nailed it. It's a Pachycephalosaurus type of dinosaur that likes to headbutt things, so Owen uses taunt to have Rampardos help them break out.
Ladies and gentlemen, a juvenile Allosaurus.
Oh, guess the Allosaurus wasn't dead. But there's something I think needs a bit of extra attention, and for good reasons. Look at the scenario we got here. Dinos in cages. We all know how that eventually turns out. And keep in mind of where we're at. We are no longer in a jungle. We are in a very widespread, multi-floored mansion. This has potential, not quite done yet in the series. Yes, I know, San Diego scene, but that happened in like the last 20 minutes. We have an hour's worth of something that can truly bring a breath of fresh air to the series. Maisie meets Owen and Claire for the first time, and despite some hesitation at first, they eventually team up.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be warned. This is the perfect blend of the two most dangerous creatures that have ever walked the earth. We call it the Indoraptor.
So here's the true reveal of it. This thing better have some awesome stuff involved since he sort of revealed it twice, gave it 2 dramatic name drops.
We call it the Indoraptor.
We call it the Indoraptor.
And hyped this reveal up big time.
Now first, the laser sets the target. Once locked on, the acoustic signal triggers the attack.
So what you're saying is, it gets distracted by a laser pointer.
Now, modifications are still being made.
20 millions!
I mean, what the hell did you think was gonna happen? You can't just show an incomplete creation like this to a bunch of money bathing suits and not expect them to go for it.
Magnificent animal.
Wait, have we ever had a person-to-person fighting scene?
Arrive.
That doesn't count. I don't think we have. Oh, and I'll just say that I think it's pretty freaking awesome to have a fight scene like this with the Indoraptor being the centerpiece of the room. Almost looks like it could be like a stage in Mortal Kombat or something. Of course, this is the main dino threat of the movie and we needed to be involved a bit more. So after everyone in the auction PG-13s their way out of the building, Wheatley decides to have a look-see, and I swear to Sweetly Swindles in Switzerland, they may have killed the Indoraptor's Indoreputation. I know I'm really stretching on that one, but just bear with me, okay? With this moment alone.
This will make a perfect centerpiece for my necklace.
I am highly convinced at this point that they did not use African frog DNA in that genome. I think they extracted the blood from that Looney Tune frog.
Hello, my baby. Hello, my honey. Hello, my ragtime gal.
Just saying, that thing was inches away from breaking the fourth wall. It practically looked at the camera and winked at us. And yes, I get why this moment takes forever to complete, because Wheatley is a hateable character, and we like to see characters like this suffer before they die. But I think you just docked this movie heavily with the darker tone you wanted to have, because it certainly didn't get it from how the death scenes play out. In fact, Wheatley's is kind of similar to Hoskins. A hand/arm is bitten off, which is the most graphic they can show, then the rest is kinda censored. Oh, and not everyone evacuated. Pause the movie, stop the background music. Okay, so what's about to happen is so stupid, which I think is the first time I've used that word in this review, that it is actually kind of hilarious, and I really wanted to emphasize what happens without the clips moving or music distracting you yet. Let's set up the scene here. The cage door, even though it's unlocked now, is on the opposite side of where the Indoraptor is currently positioned, and it's currently distracted with Wheatley. These folks are inside the elevator with easy access to whatever buttons they want. Tap random buttons, see what happens. As long as you make it to a random floor, you can hide in some room, maybe call up an emergency number since their cell phones would work here. They're rich snobs, so don't even tell me that they don't carry a phone on them. At this point, it'd be the safest thing to do. But after Eversol runs in, probably thinking he should have donated the Indoraptor to the Malfoy household, check out what this bitch does! You just saw like 20 of these damn things, this one included. Oh, okay, it's eating someone this time, so now it's terrifying. Yeah, we're basically gonna use them for war and attacking others anyway, so what's the big deal? But hey, you guys should make like the Indoraptor's tail there and just smack that like and subscribe button. Eli catches up to the Dino Trio escaping, and we finally get some closure on the mystery surrounding Maisie.
Oh, so you're gonna take care of her now, huh? You have no idea what she is. What do you think drove Hamlin and Lockwood apart, huh? Lockwood never had a grandchild. He just wanted his daughter back. And he had the technology. He created another. He made her again.
Oh, you piece of shit! So remember when I commented in the last review on how I didn't like them interrupting story with a dino attack? This is the moment I was foreshadowing. Except this time, it's a bit more of a big deal story-wise. So I have the movie paused right now since they don't give you much time to let that info sink in. And that's probably why they did it. So yes, this is the reason why I'm quite certain this film is not liked very much. No, she isn't like part dinosaur or anything, but she is a clone made in a similar way to how the dinos get made. It's something that really came out of nowhere and doesn't make sense why they would have this kind of extension to the story when the series has supposedly one movie left. So yeah, this is their way to explain why Lockwood was not in Jurassic Park nor referenced by Hammond at all. But as seems to be tradition, we don't have much time to think about it because now we have a loose Indoraptor on our hands. The Wu crew again pack their things up to leave, and he threatens Zia, but she rains on his parade.
It is better for you to cooperate. I'm gonna get this blood, with or without your help.
This blood's contaminated. But I did an intravenous blood transfusion with a T-Rex.
What are you doing?
Wait, we can't kill Wu! Oh, okay, there he goes.
Step away from that cage. Now.
I mean, I don't really see how he didn't see that coming. She's all like, I'm blue, dabba dee dabba die, mother f. Although, does that technically count Zia as a murderer? Uh-oh, that ain't good either. Blue darts away from the danger as fast as possible, but still ends up in the blast zone. And now there's technical science gases going through the vents, which will eventually lead to where the locked up dinosaurs are. But more things gotta be dealt with. So, again, I ain't even gonna be sarcastic when I say this. I like this whole hide and seek inside a mansion. And even this museum area was sort of a foreshadow. Because look at all the dino displays. It's perfect for either these characters or the Indoraptor to sneak around. And it gives you a genuine sense of horror and fear. Yes, there are jump scares aplenty. Some definitely super cheap and should have been left out. But this is a scenario where jump scares have payoff. Especially when Owen turns the power completely off so even the display cases are dark. All the Indoraptor has to do is mainly stand still, and it is practically camouflaged in this environment. But Owen chose a bad time to turn off the power, because now Franklin, are you ready for this? Is going to hack into the system and restore the power to the entire vicinity. I can't imagine where you got that idea from. Indo reappears in, admittedly, a pretty cool way, and nails Claire in the leg, but it can't get its priorities straight because Maisie runs away screaming, which grabs its attention.
Oh, that's hot.
No, they are not. But indeed they are. And apparently it's got similar physics as Spiny because it's shredded through metal or steel railing just fine, but can't break through wood with a head smash / extreme speed combo. Then things, if you can believe it, get kinda ridiculous from there. Maisie escapes to her bedroom and hides under the covers, and Indo is so determined to get her, Nathan drinks around the building and knows exactly where she's at. Now, one could make the argument that because it has the Indominus DNA, it has the heat detection ability, but I counter that with it not being able to find Owen, Claire, and Maisie for a bit earlier. Probably should have chosen a room that don't have windows. But then again, they had to do another ripoff of Indo opening a window similarly to how the rapper. But then again, they had to show another ripoff of Indo opening the window similarly to how the raptor opened the door in the movie Fuck. But then again, they had to show another ripoff of Indo opening the window similarly to how the raptor opened the door in movie 1. Fun fact to note, that was the only time in the whole series, up until now, where a raptor species slowly opens an entryway to find prey. Other than that, they've just bashed their way inside, took them by surprise with their surroundings, or an opening was already set up for them. Owen comes in knowing exactly where she ran to, also to save the day. Correction. Blue comes in knowing exactly where Owen ran to save Maisie, knowing where she was at as she's being attacked by an Indoraptor who also knew where she exactly was located. They eventually end up on the rooftop in the good old dark and stormy night, and they use a selling point of Indo against it. I don't think it's waking up from that one. And that is what this picture had been foreshadowing for so long. The Indoraptor is officially killed off, but there is still some danger afoot upon Zia and Frank coming in, seeing Indo for the first and last time.
They're all dying. The blast damaged the ventilation system.
I can open the gates from here.
Claire, be careful. We're not on an island anymore. Claire, you press that button, there is no going back.
We can't let them die.
I had to. They're alive. Like me.
No! You know what's sad? This line is so cheesy that it actually had a chance of being a really good line and could have been an emotional moment, but it's ruined. Know why? Because everybody with Maisie right now knows the dinosaurs are real. This isn't a question of are they real or just tossaways anymore. Maybe if Eli or Wu was in the room, this line would have had a stronger meaning, but as is, it does not make sense. Claire had that vision of dinos as just numbers in the last film, but changed her ways. Owen literally raised 4 raptors from birth and was constantly on Claire about dinosaurs being real animals. And I don't think Zia or Franklin would be in a Dino Lives Matter club if they didn't see them as real animals. Plus, Zia cried when she saw a Brachiosaurus, and Franklin's been scared at like half of them. Maisie, hate to break it to you, but dinos released and roaming free will kill the ecosystem, but one cloned human won't. But honestly, that's from a movie standpoint. Realistically speaking, I would have preferred this method too. I wouldn't have wanted to see all those animals die right in front of me. Cutting to Eli trying to escape, he does the thing you don't do. Hears loud rumbling and stands there staring into the darkness. Carnotaurus is back too, somehow. Way better than another first film ripoff by having an out of nowhere magically appearing teeth. Ah, you bastard. Give them some credit though. Much more rewarding of a kill than the same being done to Eddie. Yes, I'm still salty about that and will continue to be. He didn't deserve it, man! And Rexy stomps on Indy's bone, which basically makes it seem like she's gone for good now. Blue goes free as well, and now the world is about to be in chaos, cleverly giving the Jurassic World title a whole new meaning.
How many times do you have to see the evidence? How many times must the point be made? We're causing our own extinction. This change was inevitable from the moment we brought the first dinosaur back from extinction. Humans and dinosaurs are now going to be forced to coexist. These creatures were here before us. And if we're not careful, they're going to be here after. We've entered a new era. Welcome to Jurassic World.
Boy, it certainly seems like I tore into Fallen Kingdom like it was no one's business, doesn't it? I think where the main problems lie are in the main plot. They keep alluding to this weaponize the dinosaur story, which also keeps not working. Some parts are just very confusing for me to understand. Like, why auction off these dinosaurs to other money tycoons other than profit? Just about everyone here comes from a different country, so who's to say one country won't be pissed at another and develop weaponized dinosaurs themselves? Unless, of course, the grand plan was to profit from them, but not actually give any away. They cloned so many scenes from the first film and bring back landmarks, I guess, that it now really felt like a scheme to try to get people to like the film more. Eli sucks, Wheatley sucks, with the one exception of this moment where his facial expression and line delivery was funny. But part of me feels like I'd rather him not have been a bad guy, or at least pretending to be a good guy, then turning bad guy. It would actually be nice if you could have somebody who isn't a main character or a kid character being the heroes. It was sad the way that Lockwood was killed, but I didn't find him a very endearing character. The other confusing thing is how this all works timeline-wise. Jurassic Park was obviously the start of the whole adventure. Lost World is a direct sequel, although to be fair, it started the whole retcon thing. 3 does follow the events of Lost World, kinda, but it also tries being its own thing. Doesn't rely too much on previous events to move the plot forward. Then we get to Jurassic World. The lack of mentioning anything that happened in 2 and 3, and not even saying Isla Sorna, made it seem like those stories were being dropped entirely, so it was expected that this was a branching storyline and was gonna be the true sequel to the first film. Kinda like how the most recent Halloween is a direct sequel to the original 78 film despite a Halloween 2 already existing. You know, the original Halloween 2, not the remake of Halloween 2. But then Eli says Sorna in this one. If they were trying to drop those stories, there wouldn't have been any need to say it. So that kinda seems like those events did happen, and therefore Jurassic World would take place after the events of Jurassic Park 3. And I ain't talking about the Spinosaurus display, as that was more of a behind the scenes thing, and the characters never directly reference it. Rather, Lockwood directly quotes that Hammond line from the end of Lost World, and JP3 references the San Diego scene. It's also established that the films take place in real time. The new park opened up over 20 years after the original, much like how long it was between movie release years. Fallen Kingdom acknowledges Jurassic World's Dimorphodon attack happening 3 years prior in 2015, and Fallen Kingdom was 2018, so yeah, 3 years. So logically, this series does go in the order as is, which is why I had been comparing the other sequels to these ones as well. And I'm just gonna say it, I think the Jurassic World series should have been a straight-up remake trilogy with maybe a couple of original trilogy Easter eggs and should have been rated R. The World series has had some intense action scenes, and part of the excitement for the audience is seeing characters ripped apart by dinos, but they get ruined when they are barely off screen or the camera moves too fast for you to get a decent look. They do show a bit, but it's not enough. You'd expect Wheatley's arm to be spraying out blood like a sprinkler, but no. We need that PG-13 rating. And oh man, Maisie's being a clone story. Short and sweet, it comes completely out of left field and not in a good way. I don't mind that they tried something different. If anything, something different is welcomed. But I think they waited too long to do this. Probably should have been a plot point in the last film as opposed to divorce, you know? Trying to reboot the series, so why not attempt this in the first entry rather than at the end of the second? Claire's just kind of meh now, which is a nice step up from being annoying and predictable at least. Though there is a moment where I feel Bayona, or even some of the crew, didn't really watch Jurassic World or pay attention. And it's the very first clip I showed.
Do you remember the first time you saw a dinosaur? First time you see them, it's like a miracle. They're like myths. And then you see the first one alive.
This is certainly not a line for Claire, given how she was at the start of the last film. She would be sarcastic and practically roll her eyes every time someone tried telling her the dinos are real. And she literally smiled when she told Miss Ronnie that the Indominus ate its sibling. There's no way you can convince me that in the off-screen events of her getting a job here and seeing her first dinosaur, that she had a jaw-dropping, eye-widening reaction where the voice starts trembling and tears of unhappiness start forming. She still also has this guilt-tripping mood throughout a lot of this movie, and I really don't think they needed to do that. Oh, in this darker tone? Listen, the only things remotely dark in this film are the mention of a child dying in a car crash, how Lockwood was killed, and maybe the Brachiosaurus dying the way it did. For me, the film was truly at its darkest when Owen turned off those lights. And now we talk about the new main star, the Indoraptor. How do I put this? It looks cool. It can be frightening. And that's about all I can give it on a positive note. Its hand is revealed about halfway through the film, which was roughly the same amount of time as the first film's T-Rex's appearance. By the time we had our first real good look at it, we had a little over half an hour left before the movie's over. So I guess with that, this movie sort of did have some Night at the Museum reboot potential in there with revealing new characters when you don't have that much movie time left. But hey, at least Achmanrod didn't die roughly 20 minutes after being introduced. I know they talk about the Indoraptor a lot, but here's the thing. The one Eli talks about and the one that they are building up to is not this one. Again, this one's a prototype. So even though by technicality it is the main predator of the film, I can't exactly rank it with the others. Yeah, Mosey was not the main threat of Jurassic World, but I gave her a pass because of how well she was utilized. Indoraptor did not leave much of an impact for me. The Baryonyx actually left a longer lasting impression, and that was like 2 or 3 minutes. Now, for the second time on this channel, I'm pretty sure, we segue from the negatives to the positives. Every action scene is great. Some might happen because of a bad decision, but nowhere near as cringe-inducing as others in the last film. When ignoring story complications, here's the whole movie clip without credits. Now here's the movie where I was either entertained or hooked in. Chris Pratt is still great. I prefer the Zia and Franklin pairing compared to Zach and Gray. I always say I want to see new dinos in these, and we definitely got that. There were definitely some nice horror elements in there, and it was truly a good risk in my opinion to have this volcano subplot. Yes, leads to one of the saddest scenes ever, but I think it was a good way to officially end the Nublar adventure. It's almost ironic because when I saw this film in theaters, I was really disappointed, but upon rewatching this one on DVD multiple times, it grew on me a little, which was kind of the reverse effect for seeing Jurassic World in theaters than on DVD. Now, all the criticism still stands, and I do think it fails as a sequel, but when looking at it as a remake of Lost World, I do think it prevails, which is why I'm giving it a 6. You know, when you have your brain tuned off, when your brain is tuned on, then it's probably gonna be a 4 for you. Let me know what y'all thought of the movie, if you thought my points were valid, and for the heck of it, what did you think of the Indoraptor as was portrayed here? So, here's why I wanted to review these two films back to back. Come next year, we should have our final installment Dominion. And even though Fallen Kingdom isn't great, it left the door open for one hell of a memorable ending to this trilogy. We potentially could have a whole Jurassic movie like how the ending to Lost World was. And it sucks that due to the virus, theater releases are diminishing and Universal will only be releasing their films via streaming services, which I don't use. Which figures, cause I would have really loved to see this third installment in the theater. That was bound to be a good time. But I wanted to give some theories and hopes for this next film. And I've been trying my best to avoid any news or spoilers about it. And I do not want to know if I'm right or wrong with anything I say here. I want to know for myself when the movie is released. I want the Golden Trio to come back. Grant, Sattler, and Malcolm. And I don't want them to be in a one-scene cameo. Even if they are too up there in age for running away from dinos, I want them to be involved with the plot and interact with the main cast. I'd seen that Maisie will come back, and if that's the case, continue her plot in some way. If you don't, then it will have been even more pointless to have it here in Fallen Kingdom. I think Wu is gonna die. And by something he may newly create. Who knows, if there's still indie remains lying around, we may have the Indoraptor that they wanted to make. He is technically the mastermind behind everything that goes wrong since he made every dinosaur, and it'd only be fitting to have the main villain of them all die in the final movie of the series. Especially when you consider that he's also been associated with Hammond for a long time. I also feel like that Sanctuary Island is gonna be involved somehow. Even though Eli talked about it to trick Claire, it'd still be a safer island to transfer rescued species. And I want a brand new genetically modified hybrid carnivore that is completely unique. Manually modifying genomes is the main gimmick of this trilogy, and so far, the Indominus was a very cool introduction to the concept, mainly splicing T-Rex and Raptor, which are always present in the movies, but the Indoraptor is just the Indominus again, and probably an ordinary raptor, except seemingly without the Indominus abilities. I know they want to push for more practical effects rather than CG, but I'm in full belief that it can be done even with all practical effects. And I saw on IMDb that Omar Sy is coming back as Barry. Please acknowledge his name and keep him alive. I don't care if it's because he risked his life to save Owens or something. I don't want him dying. He's a cool dude, but that's all I wanted to say about that. Will I review Dominion? Of course. I feel like I'm kinda obligated to at this point. But unless by some miracle they decide to release it in theaters, I will be waiting till it comes out on DVD to watch it for the first time. But I do like to wait after a movie's had at least a couple years on DVD just so everyone has a chance to watch it. I may show and discuss a lot in these reviews, but I don't want my videos to replace the experience of you watching these movies on your own. Now then, with these films out of the way, I think it's time for a Jurassic break, so next time will be something completely different and not related to the series whatsoever. Oh, would you look at that? An entire Jurassic review without me saying wild man-eating dinosaurs!